All right. I think we are live. This is episode 2 of the McGlone Code podcast. Uh, Today I have a guest. His name is Rcam. I actually looked up Rcam. Like if you just type your name into Google, you get something called Rcam Technologies or Rural Community Action Ministry. But if you want to find this guy, you got to go to rcam.tv, which is, I think, pretty awesome because a 4-letter domain, those things are rare. So you did a good job.
Yeah, I was pretty happy and pleased with that.
Yeah, I'm impressed. I'm sure at some point in your life it'll sell for good money if you ever want to sell it. But
Yeah.
You want to keep it?
Yeah, I want to keep it. I like it a lot.
Yeah,
I got to do more with it, but I like having it.
yeah, no, it's cool. So I know Rcam mostly from X, formerly known as Twitter. You know, we travel in a lot of the same circles, and Rcam uses Rumble Studio, which is cool. So we've talked about that a bit. But I haven't really tuned into like your Rumble channel or your show much. So I was hoping you could tell me and the audience, what's your show? Why did you start it? And where do you kind of want to see it going?
Yeah. So so just a little bit of a background about me. I used to be a youth pastor, and for a little bit I pastored a small church. And probably around 2017, 2018, New York State had passed a law called I believe the Reproductive Healthcare Act, something along those lines, and basically allowed New York to murder unborn babies into the 3rd trimester. And I remember seeing this get passed, seeing the Empire State Building lit up pink, and just feeling utterly broken for these babies, and just floored that this was legal. And I felt in that moment that God was calling me to use my voice to start speaking up against it. So I got my phone, I got my camera, I turned on my camera, and I just started recording from my car, and that's how this started. And I just started speaking out against abortion, and then just any other events as they kind of came up, and that brought me to where I am now.
Was the Empire State Building pink, as though like to say this is a win for women? Is that the idea?
Yeah, yep. That's why they lit it up pink, And I remember laughing and celebrating and cheering it, and I was just floored and disgusted by it. And I just could not believe that it's not like we're at that point. I mean, I always believe that life starts, at conception, but like at that point, there's no question about it. There's no question. And that's legal for health reasons, which could be basically anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
so that's how you started Rcam TV?
That's how I started it. And then I just kind of started growing it, got more active on X, the past couple of years, started posting more, started being more, vocal, started posting on TikTok. I kind of grew exponentially on there. I'm at like 29,000 followers. So pretty cool. And slowly but surely, man, my content is growing, and I'm happy because my main motivation in doing this is just to say what is true. That's my heart, man. My aim and goal is to say what is true, is to glorify God, and for Him to be in everything that I do.
Yeah. So you've been doing Rcam TV. When did you say that? How many years now?
Since 2018, I would say. Yeah. And I was, not super consistent with it really until this past year. Okay. I think back in December, it's like, honestly, I felt like the Lord was saying, you need to put more time into this. You need to dedicate more time. So now I'm doing it 4 days a week. I carve out an hour in the evening, and I record, and I talk about whatever, story is relevant at the time. And it's been good, man. I've been enjoying it, really genuinely enjoying it. I love doing this. It's something that I look forward to each and every single day.
Yeah, I mean, I was just watching you live on X right before this, and you were just talking about current events and cultural things. So,
Yep.
And your X handle, just so people know if they want to find you after this, it's what is it? Rcam_TV, is that right?
Yep. Rcam_TV. So that's pretty much what it'll be on most channels. I think like TikTok, it's rcam.tv. So it's either rcam_TV or rcam.tv.
Okay, cool.
Yep.
Yeah, I think if they go to the website rcam.tv, all of your links are right there at the bottom. So, and then where do you want to see Rcam go? I mean, I know there's always that sense where it's like, well, you're probably open to wherever it takes you, right? But if you could influence it, where would you like to see it in a year or 5 years or?
My ultimate goal with this would be honestly to build like my own like media, I guess, or production something, a media company.
Okay.
And just be a place where people can kind of say what they want freely, and people, who are primarily concerned with, Christ and being a Christian and Christian values. I think that's really important to me. So right now, though, I guess my immediate goal is just growing and networking with other creators and taking advantage of any opportunities that come my way. That's I guess my immediate goal. Growing has not really been that much of a problem for me. I'm growing little by little, and I'm grateful for it.
Cool. And what does Rcam mean?
It's a play on words. It's a play on words. I'm not gonna.
Not that you're gonna share.
not gonna share much more than that. But
okay,
my name has a lot to do with it.
Your name. Okay, cool. Well, great. Yeah, I didn't know kind of the story behind that brand, so I was genuinely curious, and I'm glad you answered. So the way I do kind of these interviews, this is only the second one, but if you watch the previous one, similar format. Obviously, I'll try to evolve it as the podcast gets more and more episodes, but kind of do some intro questions, get to learn about you, and obviously, there's private life, public life, and if there's anything you don't want to answer, don't answer it. Just tell me you won't do it, or answer to the extent that you're willing.
So generally, and I'll just be very upfront. I try not to like answer like, I guess, like questions about my family, because I really try to keep them protected. It's not that I'm afraid of people finding out like my real identity. It's just that I'm trying to like spare them the drama that comes with being sucked into this online world as long as possible. I do eventually believe it'll happen. I'm fully ready for that. But
yeah, I'm similar. Like, I'll answer questions about me, like how I think about my family or something like that, but I'll keep their experiences and their names and their lives out of it. Yeah. So I'll keep that in mind. But again, if there's anything, don't feel weird saying, I'm not going to answer that one. Totally just skip it. So I kind of, I know you're a Christian. So I kind of was curious, what was it like growing up as Rcam? Do I call you Rcam or something else?
You can call me Rcam, Ryan. It doesn't matter.
Ryan. I prefer Ryan if I get to say that.
Yeah.
So, what was it like growing up? How did you become a Christian? That whole question. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I was an atheist pretty much up until I was 18 years old. Like, I did not believe.
What was that like a year ago? No.
No. I'm 34 now.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I was an atheist most of my life, and in fact, I actually pretty much hated Christians. I thought they were closed-minded, ignorant, and in my mind, the only like perspective I had of like a Christian. Have you ever seen the movie The Mist? There's like that crazy Christian. There's this like crazy Christian lady that's talking about like doom and gloom, and that was my only perspective of Christians. And maybe she was onto something. I don't know. But at the time, I was like, oh man, they're crazy people. I don't really want anything to do with them. And in high school, I was dating a girl, and things didn't work out. And I got super depressed and started smoking a lot of pot and kind of checking out and skipping school and just, I guess, going further into this state of depression, honestly. And one day I was at work and I was cutting plants. I worked in a greenhouse, and I was thinking to myself and thinking about like the direction my life was going. And I just began to grow angry. And even though I claimed to not believe in God, I started cursing God out for all the bad things that were happening in my life. And any glimmer of hope that I had that he was real was just gone. I just did not believe. I was like, no, there's just no way. And I went home, and somebody I know had a bag of psychedelic mushrooms, and they offer them to me, and we do them. And about 30 minutes later, we start to go for a walk, and we go for a walk to a path behind my house. And as we're going toward this path, I start to get really bad deja vu. And we walk under this tree, and the petals fall on top of me. I wasn't tripping. That actually did happen. And there are deer walking through the woods, also not tripping. That was really happening. And we the deja vu is getting more and more intense. And when I get to the middle of the path, I look up, and as I look up, the kind of clouds part a little bit, and the light is shining right on me. And in that moment, in a split second, I got an answer to every single question that I'd ever had. And I heard God tell me that he loved me and that I was supposed to be a writer. And that was it. And I had this moving experience. And as I was walking away from the path, I heard God say one more thing. He said, listen to your brother. And I didn't quite know what that meant. Or no, he said, I'm sorry for what's going to happen to you. And then something super rare happened to me. After I walked away from that path, I got stuck in what would be what is called drug-induced psychosis. So I start to kind of lose grip with reality. I start to believe like I started to get scared to listen to certain music, and I started to just get really paranoid. And 2 weeks later, I get this bright idea to do LSD, which was a huge mistake. And I do it, and while I'm doing that, going through this trip, having this nightmare experience, I hear God speak to me again, and he says, "Listen to your brother." And it ends, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm never doing that again. I felt like I was losing my mind. And I say, I'm never going to do that again. And then 2 weeks later, I find myself at this party, and people are doing LSD, and they offer it to me. I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't want any of that. And my brother, he looks at me, and he says, Ryan, if you do that, you're going to go effing crazy. And I said, no, I'm not. And I did it, man. And I just went from bad to worse. I felt my jaw disintegrate. I felt my brain melt. I could like feel it swooshing around my head. I just was going through this horrific experience and dealing with it for months, man. Just losing my sense of reality. But at the same time, I was able to work. I was able to keep most of my affairs in order while going through this internal struggle. And some of my close friends, they knew something was off.
You were functional, but struggling through something.
Yeah. And most of my friends could see something was off about me, but they couldn't quite put their finger on it. And one day, it was a Christmas Eve, I'm at work, and I have these racing thoughts. I'm unable to sleep. And I feel like I'm losing my mind. And I go to this guy that I work with, and I pull him in the aisle. He's like kind of like a father figure to me. His name is Don, a good guy. He had a really crazy story. But I pull him aside and I say, "Hey, can I talk to you?" And he says, "Hey, what's up?" And I say, I think I have like schizophrenia or something. I think there's something wrong with me." And he looks at me and he says, "No, there's nothing wrong with you. You did drugs, you had a bad experience, and that's it." He said, "Schizophrenic people, they believe things that aren't real. They believe this, that, and the third." And then I like lose it because I'm like, I believe things that aren't real. And he hugs me and he tells me everything's going to be all right. And in that moment, I don't know how I knew. I just knew that everything was going to be all right. Later that night, I did end up having like a nervous breakdown. I had to get brought to the hospital, and I'm in this hospital room, and it's the psychiatric unit, thinking like I'm never going to get out of here. Like I'm one of those people that lost their mind to drugs. That's it. I'm never getting out of here. I'm going to be trapped here the rest of my life.
Yeah, the crazy bin is your home now.
Yeah, and it was really scary. I'm 18 at this time, and thinking like this is my life. I messed my life up, and I went in there, and all I had on me was like a piece of paper and a pencil, and I sit down, and now it's like morning time, and I start to write. And as I'm writing, I see the sun rising, and I hear God speak to me again, and He says, "I love you, and you're going to get out of here." And the next day, I was able to check out, and I made the single most difficult decision of my life is to leave my hometown where I grew up and live with my dad. So I moved about 2 hours away to go stay with my dad. And it's kind of crazy too, because me and my dad had an estranged relationship for a little bit, and he had prayed that one day that he would get to know one of his sons. And
you're still an atheist at this point, so his prayers are.
At this point, I believe God is real, 100%. I believe God's real, but I don't believe He's God of the Bible. Actually, I distinctly remember saying, like, "God, I believe you're real, but I'll never read that disgusting book." Like I have this very negative view of Christianity.
Oh, yeah.
So I go there, I start staying with him, getting to know him. It's crazy because we went out to breakfast and we both had put our orders in, but we didn't know who placed what order. And we both ordered the exact same thing, like down to how our eggs were. It was like exact. And it was just one of those moments where you couldn't script it better. And I was like, wow, like I have a lot in common with my dad. My dad really, I mean, in that moment, I needed my dad more than anybody. And he helped get my, life together. And I stayed down there for about 6 months. And I came back to, to where I grew up, started going to college. I was in a sociology class. And at this point, I believe God was real, but I didn't believe He was God of the Bible. So I decided to take the semester off to find God. I wanted to know who God was. And then I meet this girl who starts telling me about Jesus. And at the time, I think she's pretty crazy, but she's cute. So
you're like, God's real, but Jesus.
Yeah, it was silly to me at the time.
Yeah,
but this girl had something different about her. She had this hope in her eyes that I just found very compelling. And
girl, is she still in your life now?
Yeah, it's my wife, man.
I thought maybe that's nice.
Yeah, she invited me to church. That was the only way she would date me too, is if I went to church. I was like, all right, I'll go to church. About 2 weeks in there, man, I can't tell you exactly when it happened, but I realized that Jesus, is Lord. I announced Him as my Lord and Savior, and man, the rest is history, bro. I couldn't get enough of the Bible. I was reading it over and over and over again. I went to school to study theology. I mean, God radically transformed my life. I mean, radically. The person I was in 2018 was radically different in 2019. I was just, or 2008 in 2009. I was a radically different person. And it was never did drugs again. I just turned my life completely around, and I attribute it all to Jesus, man. He changed my life from the inside out.
Yeah, no, and thank you for sharing it. So I'm curious because I've never, I hear different people say God has spoken to them, and some people I think are just straight out lying. I'm not accusing you of that, but I am curious your experience of God speaking to you. Would you describe it as audible, or was it something else, or something in between? Like, how do you
It was
describe?
like just a deep knowing. I don't know how to exactly. It was like
But you
this.
didn't hear like Morgan Freeman's voice telling you,
Not like Morgan Freeman's
listen
voice,
to your
but like
brother.
just this knowing, like this knowing that he loved me and what my path was supposed, what I was supposed to do. Like it was just a deep knowing. And it wasn't.
Is it kind of like you have a thought, but you know it's not yours?
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Okay.
That's exactly what it'd be like.
Okay. That seems because I'll just be, I mean, I've had maybe something that feels like that, more in that direction. But when people tell me like, no, I audibly heard